You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight? We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. College Football Playoff getting started this week. We got some bowl games. Tonight, we'll talk about the bowl games, see which ones interest us. We could cut this field in half, right? And we wouldn't be hurt that much. Want to welcome everybody watching tonight on our TGI Sports Talk Facebook page. Hopefully we've started up there. I saw a little problem, but it looks like we're okay now. Also, everybody watching on our personal Facebook page, our YouTube page, our Twitter page. We're live on Roku on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Please get those channels downloaded, guys. We're also want to thank the groups that allow us to share. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities, Flo and the gang over at Bottom Line Sports. Ken Krause at Sports, Golf Bud, Sports of all sorts. Let's Talk Sports, where Flo has his podcast, and many, many more. You college-specific groups out there, we thank everybody who lets us share. And, you know, we end up with thousands of views for each show. We love it. Quick shout-out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Pittsburgh, specifically the Sports Corner. He does with Smoke and Jim Frazier. I've been a guest there quite a few times and had a blast every time I'm on there. And a quick shout out to Mac at National Streaming Sports. Excuse me. We hope you're doing well, Mac. I think Mac is home and recovering. We hope to see him back in action soon. I just was on the professional sports show on National Streaming Sports. Sonia was filling in for Mac. I do plan on doing filling in for Mac on the Mac and Jack show Friday morning at 8 a.m. here on National Streaming Sports, and I'll simulcast that to my page. I don't know if Jack will be on that day. I know Jack is traveling to Florida for the winter. What else did we want to talk about? Oh, my thanks to Wesley Walker, former Jet standout all-pro wide receiver, was my guest on One-on-One with Keith Engle last week. This week, we got a couple good guests coming up the next couple weeks. Jim Graziano, former standout center, power forward with South Carolina in the 70s under the legendary Frank McGuire. Speaking of college, he was a standout, got drafted by the Nuggets. He was part of that great shuttle that Frank McGuire had from New York City to both North Carolina when he was there and South Carolina later on. And next week, we'll have Don Beebe, former Bills and Packers wide receiver and special teams player. So tonight, we got lots to talk about, guys. We got we'll talk a little about the Army-Navy game and the Heisman news, some coaching news. What else we got to talk about? Playoff games this weekend. We'll take a look at the opt-outs. You know, something's got to change. They got to change the opt-out. The transfer portals, they can't have it in December. You've got teams, Penn State. Now, Drew Allar is a great player, and you maybe you don't need your backup quarterback, but you've got to play 4 more games to win a national championship. And I'm not sure Penn State's winning 1, by the way. We'll get into that later. But Drew Allar gets hurt. They're back. Their number 2 quarterback is in the transfer portal. They're in a playoff. They've got to change this window. There's too many guys. You see, the opt-outs are crazy with both transfers and just people opting out. Again, I think we would have had a great matchup with Syracuse and Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. And the Washington State quarterback, who's a really good quarterback, is in the portal, and he's not going to play. Sucks. Danny, how are you, buddy? Good to have you with us, Danny Fuller. Thanks for popping in as always on our sister show so that the fun can continue there as well. So we always have some fun. Rick Sherlock, and Danny does not have a dog in the hunt in the playoff. Danny can tell us who who he'll be pulling for. As his UCL Bruins are not in. Rick Sherlock's Georgia Bulldogs will have a bye this week, but will be vying to play. Well, they'll not be vying. They will be playing the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee, which, by the way, guys, talk about the opt-outs. Another ridiculous thing is they've got to fix the seeding. They got to reseed in the second round. There's no way that Oregon should get Tennessee, Ohio State, and Penn State should, have to be, no disrespect to SMU and Boise State, but who's got an easier path? I mean, I know they got to win 2 games, but theoretically, they've got a much easier path to the semifinals than Oregon. Notre Dame's got a tougher path, having to face Georgia. Now, I don't know what Beck's situation is going to be. My guess is he's not going to play. And there are some, I don't know if Rick's one of them, but there's some Georgia fans who think they're better off. If you saw the bad interception the kid threw, what's his name, Rick? Goddard? Not Goddard. Help me out. I worry about this kid in crunch time. We'll talk more about all of that and more. But Rick Sherlock's Georgia Bulldogs is going for 3 and 4 years. Danny saying hello. Who are you pulling for? Notre Dame. There you go. Keith has got a futures bet worth $7,000. He said he's been talking about it since before the season. Only cost me $100 for a $7,000 winner. I got basically 3 bets at plus 2,500 before the season to win the national championship, and 200 of that was free money from wagering sites when you join. So anyway, go Irish. The Miami Hurricanes are not in, obviously. Army Navy last weekend, very big surprise. Listen, I said on my Sunday show, the game wasn't a great game, but it's a game that I always will watch and root for both sides, because how do you pick, unless we're in the Army or the Navy, then I get it. I'm not going to pull for one side of the military that I want to protect my ass. I'll root for both sides and bet the over, and did well. Very surprising how Navy not just won this game, but dominated Army in the trenches. Ran for nearly 300 yards. And almost 300 yards they ran for. I think they had 3 times as many yardage, excuse me. I'm having trouble talking tonight, or every day. 3 times the yardage that Army did. And Army, listen, that's how Army made their way this year, was dominating in the trenches and controlling the line of scrimmage in the time of possession. And it was reversed here. And Navy with both these teams had really good seasons. And Navy's going to get to play Oklahoma in a bowl game. Army's now going to play Louisiana Tech, because Marshall had to back out because 25 kids opted out the day after their coach headed over to from Marshall. I'm not sure where he went, but we will check that out in a little bit. What else, guys? What's going on right now? Don't we have bowl games tonight? Have they started yet? Bear with me a second. I'd love to get your guys' opinion. We talked about it a little bit Saturday. Travis Hunter, I thought the margin of victory would have been a little bit bigger. He was definitely the best player in the country this year. 1,400, by the way, snaps he was on the field for. I haven't looked it up, but you got to go back, in my mind, at least 6 decades. What's that? 64, maybe 7 decades or close to it, to find another player. There were two-way players in the 60s, so maybe there's somebody in there. I mean, people always talk about Charles Woodson. It was brought up by Jeremy on the National Streaming Sports Show. And I know he's not here to defend himself, so I apologize, Jeremy. But I had to jump off the call or the show for a second there to take a work call. The comparisons to Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson didn't play anywhere near 1,400 plays. In any event, let's see what's going on right now. Do we have let's see, get some scores out there. Western Kentucky's beating James Madison. I believe James Madison was like a 7-point favorite in this game. And later on, we've got California against Vegas. I like Vegas in this game. I haven't seen. I got in a pool that just the football pool, the squares. For every bowl game, it was $100 entry fee, and they're paying out on every bowl game this year. So I got into an interesting pool as well. We'll say where, because maybe we shouldn't be running this pool. I don't know. But besides the $100 Super Bowl squares, I never heard of this pool, and my buddy Mark got me in. It's a $60 pool, and you get $100 for every minute for every minute you have the right score. So theoretically, if 0-0 until the final minute of the game, you would win everything but $100. And out of 3-0 win, let's say, or I guess the worst would be, I don't know. I was trying to think 0-0 would be a good one to have, because you could go a quarter, right? That's an easy $1,500. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. And who else is playing this weekend? Is who else we got? Thursday, we got Sam Houston against Georgia Southern. Sam Houston's a 4.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Sam Houston in that game. And then, of course, Friday, I don't know why. I'm not sure why the schedule works out this way. But on ABC Friday, we got one semifinal game, and the rest are Saturday. I'm a little surprised the NFL's going up against college football playoff, and or maybe vice versa. The NFL's played on Saturdays for quite a while near the end of the season. A lot on the holiday season, but we haven't had college football playoffs in the past, so it's going to be interesting to see how those ratings kind of work out. And one of the games on the NFL this weekend is also on Peacock, which will probably affect their ratings as well. So anyway, Friday we got Indiana Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame a lot. 7-point favorite here. Might bet the over myself. We'll see. They've raised the cigar box limit, so I can get a couple extra bets in this week. If I see bets. Jacksonville State and Ohio. Not caring about that game. Tulane and Florida might be an interesting matchup. Florida's an 11-point favorite. I might like the points in this game. And then Saturday, you've got several games besides the playoff. You've got North Dakota State and South Dakota State in the FCS Championship. Those are the semifinals, by the way. And you'll also have South Dakota against Montana State. Those teams always seem to be very good at that level. Very good. And then, of course, at noon, you've got Penn State hosting SMU. Penn State, an 8.5-point favorite. I'm going to love the points here. SMU has not ever won a big game under James Franklin. Seems like. Sure, they won one. I like the points here. I like SMU's moxie. They didn't roll over when they looked like they were dead. Not a good Clemson team. I get it. But I like the moxie. The quarterback, Jennings, I like what the coach is doing. Lashy's going to stay there. We'll talk about some coaching news later. But I like SMU to win this game. I think Texas is going to roll Clemson. I really do. Cam Ewers needs to be healthy, but they're going to ride or die. I wouldn't expect to see Arch Manning riding to the rescue here, because they said they're going to pretty much ride or die with Cam Ewers. Then you're going to get Tennessee and Ohio State. That game, that Texas game, by the way, is at 4 4 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, we got Tennessee at Ohio State. This is a very intriguing game as well. I'm not sure how that Tennessee offense is going to do against this defense of Ohio State, but I'm not sure that banged up Ohio State offense is going to be able to keep that Tennessee pass rush off of Will Howard. Well, that'll be interesting to see as well. We'll look at some of the other games before we come back on. Next week, I don't know when we'll be on. We got a holiday. Well, we got Christmas Eve. We're not going to do then. We're not going to do a Christmas Day, obviously. I think we'll probably find a time Thursday to do it. I don't know if it'll be at night or maybe late afternoon. You guys can give me your suggestions if you'd like. If I'm going to do it Thursday, I'd kind of prefer to do it maybe late afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. But I want to be able to do it when you guys can make it. So give me some thoughts on that. But anyway, before we come on next week, we're going to have Coastal Carolina at UTSA, Northern Illinois at Fresno State, South Florida at San Jose State, and that'll be it. We should be back on by Thursday. I like that Coastal Carolina UTS game for a couple 6-6 teams. It's kind of interesting. Probably won't watch much of it. It's at 11 a.m. Monday. The game I think I'm most interested in is going to be probably that South Florida San Jose State game. Coach Ken back coaching Navy. By the way, coaching news, last week this time, we were flabbergasted that Bill Belichick had taken the North Carolina job, and I still am going to tell you that he took this job because it's the only job he could have got. He couldn't get a job in the NFL. They know it. They knew it. Their people told him they couldn't get it. They surprisingly sent out feelers to the Jets, which is shocking. His people, his circle that got together every week and reviewed every game at every team and looked at the prospects for the teams that would be changing coaches, had pointed to Chicago as the best opportunity that would be open. And they obviously were going to have no interest in Bill Belichick. And it would appear nobody has any interest in Bill Belichick. And I think that's why he's back in North Carolina. And it's very interesting. He's not shut the door in the NFL. And all the evidence you need to know is to get out of there after next year, it's going to cost $1 million to buy him out. Jimbo Fisher cost $76 million. So I think he's holding out hope he might have a path back to the NFL, but I think the doors are closed. He's burned too many bridges. I got into a little discussion with Frank Latarzo, who I have a lot of respect for. You know, Frank from the Glove Fist show with Jack Hirsch. But Frank knows his football too, and he's a big Ohio State fan. Not Frank, if you're listening, feel free to chime in. I don't agree. I never will agree that, you know, again, I want to get into a Belichick Brady thing because it's more NFL than it is college. But, you know, I people want to say that Bill Belichick never won anything without Tom Brady. Well, he made it to the playoffs with Vinny Testaverde, by the way, with Cleveland. The Cleveland debacle was not all his doing because they were tearing the franchise out from under him and moving it to Baltimore at the end of his run there. Things didn't end well in New England, but you know, you want to make an argument that Tom won 6 Super Bowls and Bill Belichick won none. Well, tell me how many Super Bowls did Chuck Noll win without Terry Bradshaw? How many did Walsh win without Montana? How many did Landry win without Staubach? How many did Shula win with anybody not named Greasy and a great defense? He couldn't win with Dan Marino. Not saying these guys aren't great coaches. They are. They're great coaches. Great coaches need great players and great quarterbacks. The only one, and Frank mentioned his name, Joe Gibbs. If you want to talk about if winning, John Madden used to have a thing, and I don't want to go too deep into the NFL again, as I said, but John Madden used to have a thing that I don't know if he said it or Bum Phillips might have said this actually. He says, what makes a really good coach is I can take my guys and beat your guys, and I can take your guys and beat my guys. That's a good football coach. one of the best ones I've seen head coach-wise. Joe Gibbs, to me, stands alone, and he's underrated as a coach when you think about the fact that he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Who's done that? Nobody's done that. I'm trying to think of a guy who's won with 2 different quarterbacks. Got to be somebody. Maybe not. Anyway, thank you, Danny. You know how much I appreciate you, buddy, and that type of support. Danny likes Cal tonight. You like Cal tonight? I like the over in that game, actually. What is the over? 40. I've got to get up here further, I guess. What is the over? By the way, that game will start at 9 o'clock. UNLV is a 3-point favorite. Cal's a pretty good bet here. I kind of like the over-under, 45.5. I could get a quick bet in. Save my bets for the playoff games maybe in the NFL. I don't know yet. Hello, J Train. Good to have you with us, James. Who do you got in LSU Baylor Texas Bowl? Listen, that's a very good matchup, by the way. When's that game coming up, by the way? Is that this weekend? Or next week, I should say, some point. Is it going to give it to me here if I look at them all? When is it? I'm going to tell you, you're not going to like it. Baylor's playing some really good football. Dave Aranda was probably on one of the hottest seats in the country when the season started. Baylor was awful last year. Had one good year where they were kind of very close to a playoff berth a couple of years ago when Cincinnati got in. The season did not start well. This team finished up as one of the hottest teams in the country. LSU's been one of the worst teams in the country. Well, I wouldn't say worst, but not good. Not a good finish for LSU. And Brian Kelly is now kind of where Dave Aranda was coming into this season. I think Brian Kelly's time in LSU is coming to a close. I really do. I like Baylor in this game, quite frankly. I'm trying to find the spread, James. I haven't come across it yet because we got like 17 bowl games a day here. Just kidding. That game will be played on, what date is it? Tuesday, December 31st. Is that right? All these games are New Year's Eve, huh? A lot of games on New Year's Eve. That's pretty cool. Baylor's a 1-point favorite in this game. This game will be played at NRG Stadium in Houston. I like Baylor. I really do. Played really good football the last part of the season. And the rest of the questions that James has also, what do you think about LSU being ranked number 1 in the transfer portal? Is that losing people or gaining people? I got to tell you, they have to make some changes, James, in this transfer portal. There's no way we should have all these kids opting out. I mean, kids that are opting out from playoff teams. Who's out already? So Cal's playing tonight without Fernando Mendoza, their starting quarterback. USC's without Miller Moss. Probably no big loss there. Jackson Arnold won't be playing for Oklahoma as he's transferring. Duke won't have Malik Murphy as he's in the portal for the second consecutive year. These are just guys in playoff games. I get it. Tulane's Mensa, not like in Mensa like you would think, is headed to Duke. Connor Wigham is already committed, decommitted from Texas A&M and going to Houston. I was trying to find just bowl teams, but they need to close this window. This window can't start. And I don't understand it. They say, well, we want to get guys, and I guess they got to get enrolled in school. So I guess it does matter for January, right? They want to have them for spring practice, so they got to be enrolled in January. Figure something else out. You can't be having guys leaving playoff teams like the backup quarterback has for Penn State, and there's probably others, before a playoff game. So I didn't see that LSU is ranked number 1. James, but I hope they got some defensive guys in that portal because I think Brian Kelly is the next big coach to maybe be in trouble. And you're seeing I think when you're seeing some of the signings you're seeing now, I mean, Belichick did get $10 million, but Rich Rodriguez signed for less than Neil Brown was getting at West Virginia, 3.5. Many coaches, Brian Kelly gave money gave his own, again, supposedly his own money to put in the portal, or not toward the portal, towards their $20 million pay for play budget. Mike Norvell, 4.5 of his $10 million-ish a year contract is going towards player allotment. Again, debatable whether it's him or he was forced to do this. The Florida State situation feels like they took his money and they reallocated it. Also told me he was getting new coordinators. Very, very similar to what happened to Jim Harbaugh 3-4 years ago at Michigan, if you remember. And you're seeing a change in the dynamic that the money is going to start going to the players and not to the coaches. Now, they're not going to be starving at $3, $4, or $5 million a year, but you're not going to see 10-year, $100 million contracts. How'd they worked out? How'd it work out with Jimbo Fisher and Mel Tucker, James Franklin, Brian Kelly? There's probably some others. I know Rick's favorite coach up in Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, just got an extension. They want him to stay there. And again, I'm not going to defend him the way that I did previously, but I think Marcus Freeman has showed what he's made out of by the way this team has rebounded. The way they realized that they were using their quarterback wrong. But again, I'm not going to defend them. Hello, JB. Good to have you with us from Back It Up Binge Podcast. Check him out on YouTube. Good to have you with us. Love the over in you talking about where we still talking Cal UNLV. Just Read Dictionary added Shula as a second definition of goat in its latest version. What's the first? I think we've had this conversation, haven't we? So, yeah, I'm not going to get into this too deeply because that's a professional conversation. I want to stick to college, but we can talk about this more, Jeremy, on a Sunday show, especially as we start to have less to talk about with football winding down. And well, not that we have less to talk about, but at some point we'll run out of stuff in February, and we'll debate the merits of Don Shula and Bill Belichick. Again, 6 Super Bowl rings to 2. Heaviest favorite team in the history of the Super Bowl ever to lose a game. Had Unitas didn't win with Unitas. You won with great defenses and a tremendous running game at a time where you could do that. Then he couldn't win with one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. So, again, Don Shula, I'm not trying to degrade Don Shula. He's a great coach. But I'm really tired of people putting Belichick down. Who made Tom Brady? Tom Brady was a nobody at Michigan. He started there as a 6-string quarterback. They continued to try to replace him every single year. And again, Tom Brady had a lot to do with him himself becoming Tom Brady. The will, the work. But the coaching came elsewhere from Bill Belichick and his staff. Boy. Anyway, we're not going to get too much into that. California, Vegas, over, like it. Norvell and Kelly better both have 10-win seasons. I don't disagree. Did Norvell bring in a quarterback already? Let me check the transfer portal. Let's see. Who are the significant guys that have signed? Portal. Let's see what's going on. Who we want to use? Yeah, here's a good one. Let me look at. I'm going to look at LSU, and I want to look at. You know who I'm talking about. Where's LSU? Because so they brought in C.J. Daniels, a wide receiver from. I'm sorry, they lost C.J. Daniels to the U. My bad. They brought in Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, wide receiver, another wide receiver, Destin Hill from Florida State. Probably not a good loss for them. Mansour Delane goes from Virginia Tech to LSU. That's good. That's good. That's good. It's a pretty good haul so far. Jordan Allen, I liked a little bit as well in that. Their defense, they can't afford to lose defensive players. Now, again, here's the portal. Wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Cornerback, good. Edge, good. Quarterback. Wide receiver. Well, there's a lot of defensive guys here down. I'll give them credit. They've made some efforts on the defensive side of the football. Let's look at Florida State. I thought they brought in a quarterback, and I could be wrong. So they want defense, offensive line, defense, wide receiver. I mentioned Destin Hill. Luke Cromenhook, I don't think is going to be their starter. I'm sorry, they lost him. Sorry, he went to Mississippi State. Could have sworn they brought in a quarterback, but I guess I may have dreamed that. Thomas Castellano. Oh, Castellanos from BC. Interesting. Small guy. Having trouble staying healthy. Little out of control. They lost Dylan McNamara. You're right, though, Danny. They better both have 10-win seasons. Mike Norvell's going to get a pass, but this is one of the worst drop-offs from 12-0 and getting screwed out of a playoff spot, which I'll tell you every time again. I'm never going to change my story. You can call them quitters. You can call them whatever you want, Rick. But I would have loved to see what would have happened if Georgia had lost that game to Georgia. Georgia lost that game to Texas. Carson Beck is out for the season. You tell me how you put Georgia in that field when you let a undefeated power conference champion out of your playoff last year. And I realize it was 4 teams. Horrible. I don't care if they would have got killed. I don't care. The guys that Rick complains about quitting would not have quit. They'd have been on the field, probably getting their asses kicked or not. They did win their conference championship game with a 3rd-string quarterback. Maybe I'm the only guy that watched that. I know it wasn't pretty, but they won. Ridiculous. That was you. Got several different suppliers, including defensive backs and defensive end for Nebraska. I did as I went down. I mean, some of the recent signings had been offensive, but as I went down, there's quite a bit of influx into the defensive side of the football there, and they need that. A lot of talk. There's a lot of talk that I've seen, James, and maybe you've got your ear to this situation more than I do, but I've seen a lot of talk about Kelly and his hands-off approach not being very, not taken very well in Baton Rouge, and that they want him to be more hands-on. This is his style, man. He's more of a CEO than he is anything else, at least now. He was a pretty good play caller back in the day, but he's become a CEO mostly. Chip Kelly's a joke. Chip Kelly, listen, it's funny that Ohio State goes all in. They had Bill O'Brien, and then Bill O'Brien left to go to BC to be the head coach. And Chip Kelly, I don't remember, and maybe you can help me, Danny, or anybody. Maybe you can help me think of a time when a Power 5 head coach left that job to become an offensive coordinator elsewhere. Unprecedented in my mind. I can't think of another instance. Maybe left to go to the NFL to be an offensive coordinator, but another Oh, he's getting out in front of the posse, I'm sure, right, Danny? I mean, he probably would have got fired anyway. UCLA played better near the end of the season. They seem to be happy with Deshaun Foster. I don't know how you feel. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention to UCLA, quite frankly, this year. We'll pay attention more as they get more accustomed to the Big Ten. But I think UCLA and USC, and I talked about this near the end of the regular season, Danny, and you may have missed it. I don't know. But my feeling about both UCLA and UCLA was they were nowhere near prepared for what they were getting into in the Big Ten and the type of football that was going to be played there. And the way you need to be really strong on both sides of the line, the trenches again. That's where games are won and lost, especially in leagues like the Big Ten, even when you're still throwing the football a lot. You win the game in the trenches, and they weren't prepared for the type of football that was being played there. The Pac-12, I used to stick up for the Pac-12 a lot, but it's certainly a different style of football, physicality-wise, than you'd see in the Big Ten, for instance, or even the SEC. And I spent a lot of time the last couple of years defending the Pac-12. But again, it's just a different type of football. And those two programs were not prepared. Now, hopefully, as they start to retool these rosters, they will look to address that situation. LSU's got several different defensive backs from Florida and from a couple from a couple of the schools. Listen, Florida, one of the reasons the Florida teams struggle or don't dominate the way they might have over a 20-year time frame, there's a lot of great high school players in Florida. And when Florida State was really good and Florida was really good and Miami was really good, well, they were fighting over those kids. And those kids from Florida, more often than not, stayed home. Those kids from Florida are not staying home anymore. They're going to LSU. They're going to Alabama. They're going to Georgia. They're going to Mississippi, Texas. Can't keep the kids home anymore. There's Michael Gott from across the pond, up late, about 12:38 over there now. Michael, you're a night owl, my friend. Good to have you with us. I don't know if it's realistic. I really don't. I mean, we have to see how this portal shakes out. Could Bill Parcells get to the playoff in a rather weak ACC? Yeah. He could win that conference. He could get to a playoff. Whether North Carolina in a year is going to be able to battle the powers of the SEC and the Big Ten is very debatable to me. And listen, I think Bill Belichick can coach at any level. The football part of this is not the big deal. It's the relating to 18-year-old kids with unreasonable demands. All the things that chase his friend Nick Saban out of the game are things that are going to drive Bill Belichick absolutely mad. Now, he's got all kinds of bonuses that I went through on Sunday's show in his contract that would allow him to boost that. If he won a national champion, for instance, his salary would go from about $10 million to $17 million. And he's getting paid more and more money every step of the way. Again, is it realistic? I just don't think they can compete with the big boys. Winning the ACC next year, certainly realistic. Getting to a playoff, certainly realistic. Winning a national championship, not so much. Feasible. Don't think it's realistic, though, Michael. Just my own take. Thomas Gastellanos coming in at FSU. The kid from, is that the kid I just talked about, right? From, where the hell is he? It's Castellanos, not Castellanos. Catellanos. He's had an up and down career at Florida State. He's had some great games. He's got some great athletic ability. He's kind of small. I think he's only 5'8" or 5'9", but he can run the football. But he's been inconsistent. But I think he gets down to Florida State, gets coached up, can do well. He was a starter in a couple of big wins for Penn State, and it'd be good if he could continue that, because Mike Norvell, Danny, as we talked about, absolutely needs a win at quarterback, because he's not winning 10 games without a quarterback. Nobody is. Sonia's here. Thanks for the share, Sonia, from Prim and Proper Sports, filling in for Mac on the professional sports show tonight. We had a lot of fun for an hour. That show just flies right by. Bill won't be the same at the college level, different type of coaching. Listen, I don't think the game isn't that different. And Bill talks about bringing up a professional operation to college. There's already teams running professional operations. What do you think they're doing at Georgia? What do you think they're doing at Alabama? Clemson. There's a lot of Ohio State. These are already professional type organizations. Bill's problem, as I said, is going to be dealing with 18-year-olds with ridiculous demands. He's not going to be dealing with professional agents. He's going to be dealing with freaking hanger-ons, fathers who have want to live through their sons. I think Bill's going to have trouble. That doesn't mean he won't win. I think Bill's going to hate it. I think it's I love Bill Belichick, and I stick up for him a lot, as I have with JB. But one thing he's not is necessarily the most sincere person you've ever seen. I mean, I saw the insincerity of his introductory press conference, him talking about it was always a dream to coach in college football. Well, he's only at North Carolina because nobody was going to have in the NFL. Pretty simple. When his team of people determined he was not going to have a job, and I read, listen, this isn't one source, man. I've been to about 15 different sources and read about 30 different articles, and they all pointed to the same thing. He and his team, which the inner circle was Josh McDaniel and Matt Patricia, every week got together and went over every single NFL team and their game that week, evaluated the places that would be open, and then had his people put out feelers. Nobody was interested, most likely, in hiring Bill Belichick. Is that going to change next year after a good or a bad year at North Carolina? I don't know. But he's left himself the door wide open with $1 million buyout after July 1st next year. Well, listen, I butcher names all the time. Don't worry about that. I thought that was a guy. I thought you were talking about the guy who bought the Bills, ran for governor here in New York a few years ago. Used to own the Sabres, I think. I think his name was Galanis or something like that. He got killed, but you can't win in a state as a Republican. Interesting. I hadn't brought that up, Sonia, but yes, Michael Vick gets the head coaching job at Norfolk State, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Little surprise. I did not know Michael Vick was really interested in being a college coach. I know there's a lot of people that may be in this room tonight, meaning the studio audience, that don't think Michael Vick should get this job. I really don't know. I think it's an interesting move. Norfolk State plays. Where do they play anyway? I don't remember where they play their football. Help me out. Help me out. Help me out. They play division. Oh, they play the FCS. FCS. Am I saying that right? And they're actually playing. They've already lost in the. They've already lost in the playoffs to. Looks like who did they lose to? Did they make the playoffs? No, they did not. Sorry, they did not have a very good year this year. Again, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I don't know if I have any opinion right now, Sonia. Good luck. That's all I can say to him. We did have fun tonight. That show's always fun. It always flies right by. You did a great job tonight, Sonia, by the way. Sorry I had to pop out a little bit because I was waiting on a call and it came, of course, about an hour and a half after I was expecting it for work. Paul Spada up in Wisconsin, or Wisconsin, not a native. I don't know what do you call people who live in Wisconsin? Anyway, he's an Oregon fan and a Patriot fan, or a Boston fan. Sonia's point, that's a NIL deal's already made. Those boys going to be running him. He's not going to deal with that. You know, he's got a $10 million buyout before next July. He might be out of there before the season even starts. Who knows? I don't see that. I think he'll give it a go. If you're North Carolina, this is certainly worth the risk. What are you risking? $30 million? That's nothing today in major college football. They're going to have to step up their commitment to the NIL situation, as they're one of the teams that really had invested in it the least in all of college football, not to speak of the ACC itself. So if this team wants to commit, maybe. I just don't see how Belichick's going to deal with 18-year-old kids with heads bigger than their freaking wallets. Oh, I'm sure maybe it's wallets bigger than their heads. Show just went to help Paul Spot. What team? Paul, you take it pretty tough from Danny. I thought I took it tough. You take it worse. Oh, wow. They were definitely dedicated. I'm not sure which one that was about. Go Oregon. Go Florida. Danny, there you go, BC. Well, there you go. I mean, we're all over the place already. I hope there's money being bet there. Sonia says, I guess we're in an era where former players start coaching. I don't know what makes them capable. I have not seen any. I have never heard a word about Michael Vick expressing a desire to be a coach. He'd been doing broadcasting, if I'm not mistaken, or, studio type shows. So I'm not really sure. Again, when this happens, some of these programs, UAB did it with Trent Dilfer 2 years ago. They hired him because he was a name over some probably more qualified coaches, and it has not worked out well. He managed to keep his job this year somehow. There was a lot of rumors he would be fired, but was not. Nothing VA. I know there's a lot of FCS. That's what I thought. Yeah. Nope. Thank you, Keith. You made I like the show fun. I just have fun. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes I make a show better. Sometimes I probably make it worse. So it is what it is. But I appreciate the kind words, Sonia. I just bring myself, and sometimes I'm in a good mood, and sometimes I'm on my show. I try to be better on other shows than I am on mine, because when I'm in a cranky mood, it often comes out here on this show, and I apologize for that, sort of. Wisconsinite, all right. And Paul's rooting for BC, Florida, Oregon. Sonia was awesome. Agreed, Danny. Thanks for popping in and pushing my buttons on multiple shows in a night. By the way, speaking of multiple shows in a night, we got about 10 minutes left here on. We're going to go to 8:30ish, 8:25ish. But we'll be leaving the folks on the Roku channel, the National Streaming Sports Roku channel, at 8 o'clock when Robert Butler comes up with the Sports Scope show, which I'll be on at 8:30. 2 weeks in a row, Roberts talks me into staying past my bedtime. But I'll be on with Robert, and I don't know what we're talking about. I'm sure some college football and some other stuff around the world of sports. So join me at 8:30. As soon as I get off here, I'll pop over there. Danny is just a fork. Well, highbrow insults here. So anyway, when you spoke of the Bills meeting with Patricia, that's dedication. Yeah, I mean, he spent basically the entire season, Patricia, McDaniel, as I said, reviewing film, looking at the potential openings and trying to find a place they'd like to land as a team. And I would expect, by the way, Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniel to join Bill Belichick in North Carolina or at North Carolina at some point. And maybe Steve Belichick, we still don't know. That still has not been any word on whether Steve will be joining Bill, and maybe they're waiting till after their bowl game to talk about that, but we'll see. And he said, Dork, I feel like I went into the hot tub time machine here tonight. I thought North Carolina would be your next pick, Paul. Listen, here's the thing. And Danny, Paul might do what he's going to do. I have become a fan of the U for my stepson and my beautiful wife, and I will not be rooting for North Carolina. Now, Eric did graduate from Miami with his undergrad and got his doctorate in chemistry at Chapel Hill. So I do have the opportunity, if I wanted to, I guess, to kind of root for two teams. I don't root for two teams. I'm a one team guy. One woman guy, one team guy. Now, college football, you can root for a story here and there. We talked about rooting for stories, and I kind of got on Sony a little bit. Not too bad tonight. But professional sports, never. I don't root for anybody but my team and where my money is. Junior Packer is what you call Wisconsin folks. What, Sonia, what'd you do? You switched up on me here. Junior Packer. Am I correct in saying that Charlie Weiss? No, I think it's his son. Charlie Weiss is retired. I think it's Charlie Weiss Jr., Michael, and I'll double check that for you. Is the coordinator, I think, at Ole Miss, but I can't remember for sure. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Charlie Weiss Jr. is at Ole Miss. He's currently serves as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So not Charlie Weiss that you're thinking of from Patriot Super Bowl victories and one good season at Notre Dame and a bunch of bad ones. A bunch of bad seasons at Kansas. Bad season as the offensive coordinator at Florida. Charlie Weiss will not be coaching. In fact, I'm not sure Charlie, I saw some pictures, and I'm not sure that Charlie's in the best of health these days. I certainly hope he is, but I'm not sure that he is. And Charlie Weiss Sr. will not be getting any more coaching opportunities. Charlie Weiss Jr. might. Yes, OU got material. You lost Jackson Arnold. He comes back and plays a great couple games, or game anyway, and he hits the portal. Alan, listen, we talked about earlier, and Alan, I do want your comments here. I think your coach, and I hope everything's working out for his wife. I know she had some illness. I've kind of laid off Venable here the last month or so, and he actually won a big game against Alabama. But we talked about Mike Norvell, we talked about Brian Kelly. I'm going to say that Brent Venables in a bit of hot seat territory himself. The team was 6-6. I said 8-4 was their high water mark, would be their high water mark. 6-6 is worse than I thought. They're getting to play Navy in the, what are they playing Navy in the, is the Military Bowl that they're playing Navy? I think Navy's going to kick their ass. I really do. And I sure Brett Venables a really good coordinator, and that's where he probably belongs. And I think OU will have a new coach after next year. We'll see. I could be wrong. There you go. Robert Butler, best dressed man in podcasting. Wow, bold prediction. Perhaps a Tar Heel reunion. Yeah, I do think you'll see at least one of those guys, if not both, on that staff. They were looking, again, they didn't spend the entire season getting together with Bill Belichick, whether it was in person or virtually, and looking at film on every NFL team if they weren't going to expect to work together. And I think that will carry over to North Carolina, unless they don't want to go to college. But I don't see anybody beating their door down. Neither one of them is going to be a head coach in the NFL ever again. And I would say that both of them could probably get jobs as coordinators. But I think they'll be happy hitching their wagon to Belichick. Go to look for Sports Scopes. Hold on, let me do something right now. I'll be on without Robert Butler. Danny wants to be able to push my buttons on 3 shows in one night. I want to get to Robert Butler. How do I find Sports Scopes? Hold on. Bear with me. Sonia, if you got Robert's sport, it might be under Roberts. I'll try to find a link for you. But if you search for Sports Scopes, see, it doesn't come up that way. Damn, I don't know how to find him. Oh, wait. Bear with me. This is scintillating TV, isn't it? My God, Keith. What are you doing? What are you doing? I see that I can't find Robert's show. Check out, if you look up Robert Butler, I think you'll get it that way. I want to put the link in here if I can so you guys can pop on. Robert Butler and I are friends. Let's see, does he do it on his show or? Yeah, so he'll be going live in a couple of minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the chat, and I think this will get you there, Danny. I think. If it doesn't, don't get mad at me. See the work I do for you guys? If you copy and paste that into the chat, you might get it. Wow, the doctor kept, he's smart. Listen, when it comes to this family, I'm the numbskull here. He's got his doctorate. His girlfriend's got her doctorate. I think, I don't want to say too much. His girlfriend's got her doctorate. My stepdaughter has her master's in psychology. My wife has a lawyer, and she's got a doctorate in psychology. So I always call her Dr. Jane, no middle name, Engle, Esquire. And so obviously I'm the dummy here. I went to the school of hard knocks and, just trying to find my way through life as best I can. Pats all the way. Armed Forces Bowl. All right, I was close, Alan. Thank you. Hey, listen, it's an interesting matchup. I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Navy just dismantled Army last week. They beat Army really at their own game. They controlled the clock. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They ran for 300 yards almost. And awesome. LSU transfer lift Bauer, Sharp tight end, Oklahoma. Sorry, Alan. Jakeem Jackson, cornerback, Florida. Barian Brown, wide receiver, Kentucky. Nick Anderson, wide receiver, Oklahoma. Really taking those guys from Oklahoma. Jamiri Butler, defensive end, Nebraska. I like him a lot, by the way. Michael Van Buren, quarterback, Mississippi State. Now, as far as the quarterback goes, if you can't play quarterback at Mississippi State, I don't know why I'm bringing you in, but that's just me. Listen, I wish Coach Kelly well. I would like them at Notre Dame. Again, I root for Miami because of family interest, right? I always root for Notre Dame because I think the game is better. College football's better when Notre Dame's good. Every sport, I talk about this a lot, every sport is better when certain teams or programs are good. College basketball is better when UCLA is good, or North Carolina, or Duke. They just are. College football is better when Notre Dame's good, Alabama's good, USC's good. Sorry, Danny, I gave you one, I took another one away. Georgia has gotten into that group. So professional sports are just better when the Yankees are good, Dodgers are good, Red Sox are good. We can go on and on. John Gonzalez is a GQ desk. Boy. GQ, it's spelled out right for me here. GQ dressed man. John Gonzalez is one of the favorites on this show. John Gonzalez has been supporting this show since the very day I debuted it nearly 5 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing. I barely know what I'm doing now, but I was nervous. One thing I don't get is nervous anymore. The first couple months I did it, I was always nervous. Don't have enough to talk about. Who cares? I can talk about anything. I can have nothing or everything to talk about, and I have fun. I learned to go out here and just have fun. And John Gonzalez asked me to share my shows to his group early on, the Sports Authorities. Guys, you won't find a better run group than the Sports Authorities. Check out that group with John Gonzalez for sure. And I will agree with Eddie. I don't know that I've seen him in anything more than a leather jacket, but I'll buy your opinion. Danny and John also works over in security over to MetLife Stadium, whatever we call it now in New Jersey, where the supposed New York teams play over there in New Jersey. Danny Fuller's a button pusher for sure. We love Danny. We love you too, Paul. Where's Chris been? What's Chris? Chris Hefgrave has been kind of hit and miss lately. And Chris, I owe a thanks for Danny and Paul and some others joining the show here this past springish, I guess. And they've been great additions to this studio audiences and joined a great group of guys already. Robert Butler, yes, that's it. He should be going live. He should be live right now if you check him out on Facebook quickly. The Sports Scopes. I don't know where else. Probably on YouTube too. I don't know where Robert really. I look for Sports Scopes. Maybe on YouTube. If you look there, Danny, you might find Sports Scope. You spell it Skope, by the way. Michael, what do you think about the idea of Andrew Luck as GM at Stanford? It's another gimmick. I don't know. The GM now seems to become a thing. Belichick named Mike Lombardi as his GM at North Carolina. There's several other schools that are going in this direction. GM of the football program, right? Maybe it's a good idea. You need somebody in today's landscape. I mean, a head coach can't do it all. He can't be in charge of the NIL program. You've got a budget, $20 million. Again, that is supposed to be for your entire sports programs, all in its entirety, not just for football. But there's so much going on. I mean, a head coach can't do it all. He can't pay attention to recruits. He can't pay attention to the NIL, the transfer portal, the pay-for-play budget, whatever we want to call the thing. So I think you're going to see this is well, now whether Andrew Luck is going to be any good at the job, Michael, I don't know. He's gone back to his alma mater, which is good for the school and good for, its profile. How good he'll be remains to be seen. Andrew Luck was a great college quarterback and had a really good pro career before he decided to just walk away. Basically walked away. Had a few injuries. Great college quarterback at Stanford. Very close to getting to a playoff with Jim Harbaugh as his coach, by the way. That's why we love me. Well, thought only my wife did, but I wasn't even sure about that. But thank you, guys. We have a lot of fun here. More stars for our guy. Man, oh man, the stars are flying. My eyes lit up in the stars. Thank you, Danny. Yeah, how did our wives have these? My wife's a lawyer. She didn't use her. It's funny. She gets mad when I call her doctor because she didn't. She was a lawyer. She did not use her psychology degree. Thank God, or I'm sure she would have seen through me in a heartbeat. But good for her. I'm glad for your wife, Paul. Baseball is better when the Dodgers. It is better. Every sport is better. And I'm sorry, I don't like the Dodgers any more than you do, Paul. But baseball's better when certain teams are good. And I know you don't want to see an LA New York World Series, but that's what, Dodgers and Yankees. I said Red Sox. I didn't exclude you. Baseball's better when the Red Sox are good because the Yankees and Red Sox have a great rivalry. And it's not just a big city thing. I don't think the baseball's any better when the Mets are good or bad. I don't think it really matters. Listen, nobody will like to hear this. The NFL's better when the Cowboys are good and Green Bay's good. Hopefully one day the Patriots will be good again. The NFL will be better. Spot musical lay on the couch and confesses faults to his wife. I never needed to do that. Look at John Gonzalez is like Beetlejuice. Oh, there's the picture. You are. You know what, John? I never picked this out. I thought I can't click on that. That is a good looking outfit you got on there, John. You've been called one of the best dressed men on social media, and I'll go for that. I'm a little scared that you showed up when your name got said 3 times like Beetlejuice, but that's okay. I'm just looking at some of the people I haven't maybe popped in. Nathan Sprague, say hello. Taylor, say hello for the Michigan Sports Truth podcast. Another great, you like Detroit football. Follow Taylor's got some great stuff, as does Jeremy. I can't remember Jeremy's last name. I'll butcher it without seeing it in front of me. Who else is out there? Taylor Phillips, I mentioned. Augustine's here, speaking of great Oregon fans. And Robert Butler was here a little while ago. We'll be on with him in about 20 minutes. Right, Danny, it's a little creepy. It's a little bit like Beetlejuice for me with John. I'm not sure what happened here, but keeping me out. The NFL's better without the Pats. What would be better would be my my pick'em pools would be better without the Patriots as well, because I cannot pick against my team. Danny, I'll tell you that. Listen, and Danny will love this. John, I'll tell you this: the NFL's better when the Giants are good. Rather, the Jets, nobody cares. The Jets can be good, the Jets can be bad. Except for Jet fans, nobody's going to care. But the NFL's better when the Cowboys are good, the Giants are good, the Redskins are good. Yes, I said Redskins. College sports is no different. Dave Guyette gets to watch his Syracuse Orangemen coming up, I think, December 30th, I want to say. play in the Holiday Bowl against Washington State. And by the way, I want to get to some coaching news. Wake Forest, Jake Dickert will not coach in that game for Washington State as he took the Wake Forest job. Very interesting move, I thought, for Washington State to go to coach to go to Wake Forest. Jake Dickens has done a great job at Washington State. So he will not coach in their bowl game against Syracuse this year. And I believe his quarterback, who's hit the transfer portal, will also be skipping that game. Yes, actually, Mateer, Oklahoma. Alan already brought it up. Yeah, I'm with you there, John. As I sure there's a comment coming from Danny. Again, I won't belabor the point too much on our college football huddle. And we'll look at a little college basketball. We'll start mixing some basketball in as we head forward here. Danny should be having his obligatory Keith's Giants. I'm not a Giant fan. I thought the Giants would sneak into a wild card this year, and I couldn't have been more wrong, obviously. And maybe I was just, rooting for my good friend John Gonzalez and Mac to do well. Some coaching news as we go around. By the way, Mike Gundy is another guy who took a salary decrease, fired both his coordinators. We saw this happen with Harbaugh a few years ago, and now you've got some teams starting to look at the same formula. We're going to take some of your money away. They make it sound good and say, the money's going to go into, our recruiting efforts and our pay for play pool. Hold on. I do know you so well. There you go. I knew it was coming. I mean, listen, I figured you guys out a long time ago. Anyway, maybe that's going to be the new thing now is we're going to take money from coaches and put it back into the player pool money. If you want to keep your job, you'll do what I say. Bill Belichick, as we know, has replaced Mac Brown at North Carolina. Barry Odom. I'm a little surprised at this move, but Barry Odom gets back into big power conference football by taking the job leaving UNLV and taking the job at Purdue. He's got a big rebuilding job ahead of him there. He replaces Ryan Walters. Rich Rodriguez, we mentioned earlier, had a great first run with West Virginia. Going to be interesting to see if you can go home again. And for a really inexpensive $3.5 million, less than what Neil Brown was getting. Scott Frost goes home again. We got a couple of these stories. Goes home to UCF, replacing Gus Malzahn, who resigned to become the coordinator at Florida State. Dowell Logans, South Carolina offensive coordinator, has taken the job at Appalachian State that was vacated by Sean Clark. Willie Simmons, who is the Duke running backs coach, has replaced, hold on, bear with me one second. Florida International's Mike McIntyre. Blake Harrell, who is ECU's defensive coordinator and was the interim coach there at ECU, and really turned that team around this season, got them to a bowl game, replaced and will continue to replace Mike Houston. USC linebacker coach. How's any defensive coach get a job is beyond me. We'll coach Fresno State. Jeff Tedford has left that program for the second and probably final time. Charles Huff, I mentioned the Marshall coach, won a league championship at Marshall, immediately goes to a team that finished last at Southern Miss, replacing Willie Hall. It is his alma mater, I believe. And 25 kids immediately hit the transfer portal, and they weren't even able to go to a bowl game. I'll get back to your comments in a second, guys. I see some stuff up there. Throw them up there, and we'll talk. We'll cover your comments for the last 10 or 15 minutes of the show. I got to get off to get on Robert Butler's show by 8:30. Bronco Mendenhall goes to Utah State from New Mexico. Spent 1 year there. Did very well at BYU. Did okay at Virginia. Blake Anderson was fired there. Trey Lamb from East Tennessee State replaces Kevin Wilson at Tulsa. Tim Albin, who was at Ohio, replaces Biff Paggi at Charlotte. Scott Abel goes to Rice, replacing Mike Bloomgren. Casey Keeler will coach at Temple, replacing Stan Drayton. Matt Drinkle will be the head coach now at Central Michigan, replacing Jim McElwain, who retired. Jim McElwain had a really good career, did really well at Colorado State, got off to a pretty good start at Florida, and then left. Not by his own volition. Matt Drinkle, by the way, is the Army offensive line coach, and up until the Navy game, they were dominant this year against most of their opponents. Phil Longo, former Wisconsin offensive coordinator, was under a bit of fire there. Will be the new coach at Sam Houston, replacing Casey Keeler, who took the same job at Temple. Joe Harazmiak replaces Don Brown. Harazmiak was at Rutgers. At UMass, I don't know that I'd leave any job in the country to go to UMass. Where are the Smiths and Jones? Arumovich will replace Mike Newell at Ball State. Jerry Mack, who coming from the NFL, a Jacksonville running back coach, will replace Kennesaw State coach Brian Bohannon. Zach Kitley will replace Tom Herman, who's probably worn out his welcome everywhere about now. Tom Herman was the biggest want out there for the longest time when he's at Houston, and he got to Texas and ran that program into the ground. Now he's run FAU into the ground, and now he's out of football. Dan Mullen surprisingly leaves, to me, leaves a CBS, I think it's a CBS broadcast studio, where he didn't do a bad job, and replaces Barry Odom at UNLV. Takes over a pretty good, talented team if they stay. Marshall names Tony Gibson, North Carolina State defensive coordinator, to replace Charles Huff, who I said went to Southern Miss. Brian Smith, Ohio offensive coordinator, replaces Tim Albin at Charlotte, who took another job. Jake Dickert, as I mentioned, replaced the Dave Clawson, who resigned. Dave Clawson, and we'll get Larry Sorensen on to talk about this change. Maybe next week we'll get Larry on for 20 minutes or so to talk about the change at Demon Deacons. Larry, former MLB pitcher, Michigan native, Michigan grad, but also has been working at Wake Forest for quite some time now as their color coordinator for football and baseball. And that Washington State job remains open, one of the few jobs still open. And then we had some extensions. Mike Gundy gets retained, I should say, had to take a pay cut. Kalani Sitake at BYU gets extended. Again, he was in a bit of trouble when BYU was picked to finish last. Sam Pittman, maybe a bit of a surprise, retained by Arkansas. Billy Napier turned Florida's season around, finishing 6-6 with that team and that schedule, not so bad. All of their losses were teams that were ranked in the top 15 at the time they lost. Dave Aranda, as we mentioned before, surprisingly turned Baylor around, and they got an interesting game against LSU coming up. He'll keep his job. Lashley, who we mentioned at SMU, has done a great job there. He was extended. His name was being bantied about for other jobs. J.G. Kinney was extended as well at Texas State. Has done a great job there. And Trent Dilfer, as I mentioned earlier, was retained by UAB. So there's all your coaching news, and we'll have more of that to come. Arch will now go play with Bill for 1 year. I don't see that happening. He's not leaving Texas unless for some reason Cam Ewers comes back. Cam Ewers might come back. His draft stock has dropped a lot, and we won't get into it this week. We'll get into it in a couple of weeks. This is not a good quarterback class. I mean, there are maybe, I guess I will talk about it real quick because I pulled something up here. Where is it? Maybe I closed it. If I close it, I'm probably not going to look for it again. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, this is not a good quarterback class coming out. I mean, Ward will likely be a first rounder. Shadur Sanders, these guys, nobody should get picked in the top 10. These quarterbacks are all guys that ought to go probably back a ways. Dylan Gabriel, I don't see a top 10 quarterback in this draft class. Cam Ewers has probably fallen from the first round to the second round. Carson Beck has fallen from the first round to third or fourth or maybe more round. He'll be an interesting guy to watch on day 2 of the draft to see how far he falls. But this is not a good year for coaches. But I don't see Arch leaving. I really don't. I mean, if Cam Ewers were to stay, I think and again, I don't think he'll stay because I think he knows Arch will start there next year. It's time for Arch Manning. We've seen as far as I think Cam Ewers can take this team. I think they might win. I think they'll beat Clemson, but they'll probably lose in the second round. I didn't give you my picks, did I? I think I did. Oh, I might have at the top. Let me give you my picks anyway, just for this round. Actually, I'm going to give you every round. I've got Texas over Clemson. That hasn't changed. I've got Ohio State over Tennessee. I've got SMU over Penn State. I've got Notre Dame over Indiana. And then in the second round, I will take I'm going to have Texas win in 2 games. Arizona State, I think, will not be able to keep up with Texas in this game. Arizona State's one of the hottest teams in the country, but I think this 2-week layoff might hurt them more than anybody. I'm going to take Oregon over the Ohio State or whoever wins that game. And I will take SMU to beat Boise State and get to the semifinals. And I'll take Notre Dame to get to the semis. And how about Oregon? We talked about their tougher draw. Theoretically, I'm taking Notre Dame and SMU to get to the semifinal. Oregon's got to play Ohio State to get to the semifinal. In the semifinals, I'm going to have Texas against Oregon. I'm going to have Oregon win that game. In the semifinals, I got Notre Dame beating SMU. And my money talks. Notre Dame beats Oregon in a huge upset. And Keith wins $7,000. Scott Frost was a huge failure at Nebraska. I think he's going to be, listen, he caught lightning in a bottle. The landscape has changed for UCF, right? This is a great program with great facilities, but they have not been able to get over the hump. They haven't really, they underperformed this year under Gus Malzahn. There is a great track record of coaches going back and recreating greatness at a school, leaving it, coming back. You got 2 interesting stories this year, and Scott Frost and Rich Rodriguez trying to do that at UCF and West Virginia, respectfully. Danny Fuller's now coaching Chattanooga State. That's a good one, Dan. John Gonzalez, I gave you the GQ and I get Chattanooga. Well, there you go. No good deed goes unpunished, my friend. UCLA is sticking with Deshaun Foster. Greg, good to have you with us. Hope you're feeling okay, buddy. And by the way, since Greg is here, and we don't have much time to talk about it because I got to get off of here in 5 minutes to get on with Robert Butler on the Sports Scopes. But I just want you to know that I would have won $1,000 if I had not lost my cool and said, F you and your $1,000. I won't mention the guy's name because I've slandered him enough on this show. But remember, it wasn't about what the tiebreaker was. It was about whether the argument was about whether Miami would get to the playoff. And I said and here I am, a Miami fan, arguing against them just because it was the thing to do. But it turns out they did make the championship game because they lost to Syracuse. As I said, they had a very good chance to do, which I wasn't rooting to happen. I want to be wrong. Anyway, Greg, I hope you're feeling better tonight, Greg. Michael, what's that? Oh, Michael Vick. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier too, James, that Michael Vick has accepted the head coaching position at Norfolk State. They play at the FCS level and have not played there very well recently. So you think the Bills will put up 50 on the Pats this weekend? The college football show, Greg. Tune in Sunday. I'll give you my pick. No, I think we'll hold them to 45. 45 to 15. I don't know how we're getting to 15, but we'll think about it. By the way, great defense. Your team's playing really well, but I think they've given up like 85 points the last couple of weeks, haven't they? Or 90? With that said, Josh Allen's the MVP of the NFL. Just saying. We can't even watch that game now. At least, well, maybe Mark will stay with you until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I'm not. They flex that game to 4:25. I say no. Bills. Pats give the Bills fits usually. Pats aren't usually this bad. The defense is horrible. That's going to be a ballsy pick at 1 or 2 to take Shedeur Sanders. That will wreck that franchise for longer than they've been wrecked already. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate your kind words always. 86. Well, there you go. That defense is better than I thought then. They've given up 86 in the last 2 games. But you scored, 90. So, no, you probably scored 95? Something like that. I hope Norfolk State mascot isn't a dog. Oh, James. Too early. No, it's never too early. That is funny. I don't care who you are. If it offends you, I'm sorry, but it's funny. We don't go out of our way to offend people here, but it tends to happen from time to time just because of, who I am and people who act like me. All right, guys, it's been fun. We'll be back. We'll be back next. I don't know when yet. I'll let you guys know. With Christmas falling on Wednesday, we'll probably do the show Thursday at some point. I'm thinking late afternoon, so I'm not tied up all night. But I'll let you guys know for sure, okay? Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talk, College Football Huddle. I'll be on with Robert Butler in just a few minutes. I'll have Jim Graziano on one-on-one with Keith Engle on Friday morning, former South Carolina basketball standout under legendary coach Frank McGuire. And in 2 weeks, we got Don Beebe. And we'll be back Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. You guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.